Today in this 2006 Honda CRV, we're going to review and install the Roadmaster XL baseplate kit, part number 1555-1. Alright, this is what our bracket looks like when it's installed on our CRV. As you can see here, we got these two brackets that slide into the main bracket that's installed on the vehicle. What's nice about these brackets, when you have your tow bar off, you can easily remove these guys. There's a little clip right here, common everyday pin and clip. Take it out, remove this assembly, and you don't have all this material hanging out in front of your vehicle where you're not pulling it behind your motorhome. Also, our safety cables are detachable with a quick link. Now also you'll notice here, we do have some electrical. We have 4-pole flat and a breakaway switch and this bracket. Now these parts are not included with a bracket for a car. And when we're ready for daily driving, you notice with the bracket in place, everything stays relatively flush and makes a very sleek look and almost looks like it was always a part of a car. Now our MX brackets here will work with all the Roadmaster tow bars that are out there. Now all our parts that get attached to the vehicle, as well as the brackets on the outside, are covered with a black powder coat finish. Now this will provide a great solution to pull your CRV behind your motorhome. Plus, when it's not being used behind your motorhome, all these attachment points can be removed to make a nice clean look on your vehicle when you're driving down the road. Now we showed you how the features and how it looks on our vehicle. Let's go ahead and show you how we installed it. First step of install is we need to open up the hood and get some fasteners that are underneath the hood. First off, we'll remove this bolt using a 10mm socket. This connects to our battery strap, so let's loosen that up and keep it out of the way for now. Next up are a series of plastic fasteners across the top of the grille here. These are all the plastic rivets that will go ahead and remove those. There's a little slot here to put a small screwdriver into, pop up the center, and pull the whole assembly out. Also, sometimes if they're a little stuck, you can use a trim panel tool and use that to pop it out as well. Now this whole panel can come loose. We'll put this out of the way for now. Alright, now let's go ahead and move on to our fender well here. We're on the driver's side and there's a bolt up in here that we have to remove using an 8mm socket. I'm going to remove the same bolt over on the passenger side. Now I'll go ahead and move down to the bottom of our fender well right here, and there's a small Phillips head screw that we have to remove. I'm using the number 2 Phillips bit. You can use a screwdriver too. If you need more room, you could simply turn the wheel as well. One more time over on the passenger side. Next, let's go ahead and go underneath the front of the vehicle here, where there's another series of fasteners we have to remove, going all the way across the bottom edge. These fasteners are similar to the ones on the top, but they don't have a little edge to put your screwdriver in. But you can put it in this groove that goes all the way around, and then pop out the centers. That one came out pretty easy. But sometimes they're full of dirt when they're at the front of the vehicle, so it may take a little more effort than that. Next up, if your vehicle has fog lights, go ahead and disconnect the electrical behind them. At this point, we should be able to take off our entire bumper cover. So you want to go to the edge of a fender well right here, kind of work your hands behind it, and just kind of gently pull it out from steady pressure, and it should pop loose. There it is. Get it nice and loose. It wouldn't be a bad idea to get an extra set of hands on the other side to do this at the same time. Okay, we'll go ahead and take off our bumper cover and put it in a safe spot while we do the rest of our work. Alright, next up, a lot of vehicles have a outside air temperature sensor located in this area right here. However, our vehicle doesn't have it. But if it did, there'd be a little plastic fitting that goes into the bumper core here, and you just pop it loose. Now if our vehicle did have our sensor here, we would simply unclip it from this spot right here and put it to the side. Once our bracket's installed on the vehicle, we would simply reattach it with some zip ties. Next up, our bumper core right here has to be completely removed to make room for a bracket. This will not be reinstalled. To remove the bumper core, these 2 bolts here, and one on the inside you get access from the bottom right here, will have to be removed on the driver's side. We're using a 12mm socket for this. Moving over to our passenger side, It's going to be one little bit of a difference. There'll be an extra bolt right here we have to remove. Next, we'll go ahead and remove the 2 same bolts on top and 1 on the inside, just like we did on the driver's side. Once all our hardware has been removed, we can get this out of our way. Next up, we have to move this horn right here. There's actually 1 on each side. Go ahead and loosen it up with a 12mm socket. We'll get these reinstalled after our bracket's been put into place. Now, to get our wire loose, we'll squeeze on the clip on the inside here and just push it out. And you have this whole assembly out of the way while we do our work. We'll repeat the same process over on the passenger side. All right, now let's go ahead and put some hardware onto our car. We got this brace right here and this square hole in the back. We'll get this 2-inch long by 1/2-inch carriage bolt. We'll drop that in like this. Now, there is a left and a right-hand side to these. It's pretty simple to pick out. Or this flat part right here is welded on an angle from this part here. So we just got to make sure it matches with the angle on the inside of a frame. So when it's all said and done, when we put it inside, make sure a bolt drops out a hole at the back. And when it sits okay, this is going to be set completely vertical. Now as you slide this in, you want to keep that flat spot on the bottom of the frame and try not to knock out that bolt at the same time. Push it in and let it drop through. This is our driver's side. We'll go ahead and do it one more time over on the passenger side. One thing to know as we start installing all our hardware, we'll also treat all our bolts with some red Loctite. To this bolt, we're going to add this big thick washer with the cut on it. We're going to add a lock washer and then a 1/2-inch nut. Kind of hard to see, but we'll just put this up in place with the cut side pointing out of the vehicle. And we'll just snug this together but not tighten it up. That should do. One more time over on the passenger side. Okay, now let's go ahead and put our bracket into place. So this edge will slide on top of here on both sides. Then we'll reinstall the factory bolts on top with a little bit of Loctite as well and put those guys into place. We'll do that on both sides. All right, now let's go ahead and attach some more hardware, starting with this hole right here in our 5/8 bolt with some Loctite. We're going to put a washer on here. We'll take a spacer. We'll get it started there. Now we'll run it through this bracket. And you're going to take another spacer and put it on the inside. I'm actually using a magnet to help hold it in place for me while I guide it in. And we'll push the bolt through. Once our bolt ran through, sometimes this can be a little bit on the tight side. We'll take a lock washer and install a nut. Now out in this gap right here between these two, 1/2-inch carriage bolt and some Loctite. We'll get it started with another spacer. We'll add a lock washer and a nut. Same thing in this spot right here. Now we have all our hardware installed on our driver's side. Do it one more time on the passenger side. Once we have all the hardware loosely installed, we'll go ahead and torque and tighten down the bolts as described in the instructions. We'll start with the small ones first, then work our way up to the biggest bolts. Okay. Now these next bolts will be the 1/2-inch bolts. I'll need to use a 3/4-inch socket on these guys. Our 1/2-inch bolts here, once again, 3/4-inch socket. All right, now if all our hardware torqued down, now I'll go ahead and begin reassembly of our vehicle. Remember the horns we took off earlier? We'll go ahead and bolt them back into place. We want to make sure when we have this installed that it's out of the way where it doesn't contact anything else. So it doesn't even hurt if you want to bend it back a little bit, that's just fine. We'll do this with both horns on each side of the vehicle. Now before we put our fascia back on, it's a good idea to run your wiring for your taillights that's going to go to the back before you put your fascia on. I'm just going to run it behind the headlight here and down and below. I'm just going to leave it in place with plenty of slack to work with. Okay. All right, now let's go ahead and do a quick test fit with our bumper cover here. I'm going to put it back into place, just temporarily. Okay, with our bumper cover in place, we'll go ahead and look to see where we have to cut. For a receiver opening here, we have to remove this bar. And then to the inside here, there's an attachment point for your safety cables. To make room for that, we're going to cut this out and also these two vertical bars. This is our driver's side. We'll have to do the same thing over on the passenger side. Now this is pretty easy material to work with. I'm just going to use some tin snips to make my cuts, especially on these bigger pieces here. We'll just keep scoring across the bottom here at the corner. After a series of test fits and make sure we had room for our extra accessories, we can go ahead and put on our bumper cover for good. Okay, now we can go ahead and reinstall all our fasteners. We're going to work from the bottom back to the top. Where our fasteners pulled out, make sure they look like this. We'll push them in, push in the centers, and that's it. And we'll go ahead and do all the bottom edge first. Put our top plate back into place and reinstall our fasteners. Okay, we'll put on a brace for our battery. One of the last things we need to do is go ahead and install our safety cables. Put a quick link onto our tab right here. Pull it through, and we'll tighten her up. All right, now these brackets will slide into our main bracket here. Goes right into place. They're held in place with a 5/8 pin and a clip. There'll be one for each side. And now our bracket is ready for attachment to your favorite tow bar. And that'll finish it for a Roadmaster XL baseplate kit, part number 1555-1 on this 2006 Honda CRV.
Click the link below to shop, learn more, or visit us at etrailer.com.